Hey guys, it's Matt and Steve from LRM Leasing, and we're here in our shop and wanted to point out what we're doing here. We have an International ProStar with a Cummins ISX engine. Steve, tell us what we're doing and why.
So these are one of the trucks that we go through for inspection. When we get to this point where we go underneath the motor, we want to inspect the main bearings, rod bearings, thrust bearings, pickup tube. What we're trying to do is be more proactive so we don't have any further issues down the road when it comes to the lower end, especially when it comes to oil pressure, which is always the killer of the motors. So what we want to do is we want to be proactive by inspecting those bearings and making sure everything looks good in there, because when we buy the trucks, we don't know where it came from, so we want to dive into it as much as we can so we have a good idea of what we're dealing with before we hand the truck over to a customer.
You said that this is the killer of the engine. Can you elaborate on that? If this does go undetected, or someone, a shop or whoever doesn't actually do the inspection, what can it lead to?
So when you have low oil pressure, you just got to think of it as like pretty much blood moving through your body. It's the same thing. If you don't have that oil moving through the engine and proper lubricating and cooling at the same time, it's going to overheat. You'll start spinning bearings, the motor's going to lock up, and then it's out. You're going to be putting a new motor back in the truck.
And that's not cheap.
No. So they can range anywhere, especially now in these days, anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000 if you can find one.
So we lower the oil pan, drain the oil. What are we looking for? What is exactly what we're looking for? And if we see that, what are we going to do to basically remedy it?
So our biggest concern is we want to look for any heating, any like bluish discoloration on the bearings. That's telling us that there's some sort of problem. It could have been from oil pressure from the history, or just a lot of wear and tear. We look for that just to see how the motor's performing by the wear of the bearing. So when we see a lot of heat, then we'll probably investigate a little bit more, hook up the computer, see if there's any low oil pressure codes, things like that, just to indicate the history of this motor has gone through its life so far.
Are you just looking for color, or I understand, we hear scratching, indentation a lot, and we can put up a picture on this video what a bad bearing looks like, but you can actually see it, right? Besides color, you can see some wear and tear.
Well, if we have a scratch, that means it's probably a burr in the crankshaft, which is not a good thing. What caused that burr? And at that point, that's a decision where we have to decide if the truck should even go to a customer or put a whole new crank in, depending on the repairs. Especially when you have a deep cut, it's something that we really don't want to see. Just the fact that it's going to cost more money to do the repair doesn't mean we won't do it. It's just we're going to determine where that truck's going to go.
That's right. And for everybody listening, how long does this repair take from lifting it up, dropping it down, and how much does a job like this cost, if you even had to guess, if you took it to a corporate dealership? Or
the funny thing about that, especially what's going on in the industry, before I could tell you it's going to take anywhere between 2 to 4 days to get a truck finished, done, and turned around. Parts are anywhere you're probably looking about $1,900 to $2,200, but now you're looking more like 2 to 4 weeks, and now the parts have jumped up where if I can find them, you're looking at prices anywhere between $22,000 to about $4,000. Depending where you find the parts.
Yeah, remember, we're filming this November 9th, 2021, so we're dealing with that part shortage, which we're gonna talk about in another video. But I guess really what you're saying, guys, if you didn't pick up on that, it's expensive, but it's worth it. Remember, this is an investment that you're making in the vehicle, and that you gotta know what's going on inside. To Steve, what he said is, we don't know where it's been. We don't know what it's been through. We don't know the history of the codes, because they do actually go away at a certain point. So we want to take every precaution possible, expensive or not, to make sure that you're getting the best truck possible, because if you don't, then your investment is for nothing, our investment is for nothing, and we can't have expectations to actually get paid. So that's what we do here at LRM. We appreciate it. We'll see you in the next video.